Hey, and welcome back to the Dice Tower. I'm Camilla.
I'm Zee.
And we're going to be taking a look at a new era from Legends of Andor, Eternal Frost. This is my first venture into, really into the Legends of Andor system. I've played one, maybe two scenarios before of another one, but really deep diving into the world, this is my first time. It was kind of intimidating.
And I've played some of the previous stuff, a decent amount of the previous stuff. The first one, the follow-ups to that, which were kind of expansions to the system. And now we have here a new standalone core box to it. After kind of a break there. You know, these games are... there's quite a few of them that have come out, especially in Germany. And they make their way over to English, but it had been a while since a proper Legends of Andor game.
Right, and I think for me, kind of being intimidated where to jump into this, it was really exciting. A new standalone, new starting point. Hey, I'm new. Can I start here? Before we answer that, though, let's take a look at how it plays. In order to avoid any spoilers in this game and the story and some of the different mechanisms that might unfold as you play, this is going to be a very broad overview. But with that, let's jump into Legends of Andor Eternal Frost. On a player's turn, they're going to do one of two actions. They only get one action per turn before it goes to the next player. They can either move or they can initiate a fight with one of the baddies that are out on the board. So if they want to move, they have to decide how many spaces they want to use. These up here are kind of the action points of the game. So for example, if my character here wants to move, let's see, wants to maybe make their way over this way, they're going to want to go 3 spaces. They would use 3 actions for that and go 1, 2, 3. Now, if a player ever ends their movement in a space with one of these snow tokens, they will reveal it and resolve it. So this one here, they're going to move along the arrow movement path. So a blizzard comes through and it pushes them over into here. That is then resolved and removed off the board. These can be a variety of different things, giving them additional strength, another blizzard, taking away some of their willpower, different things like that. But they are one-time effects. Sometimes in more advanced games, they will be items that you're kind of searching through the snow for as well. At this point, if there was another player, then they would go and they would spend their action points, and it goes back and forth until one of you spends out your action points or decides to call it a day and go home. But we'll get back to that in a second. So the first thing they can do is move, and again, they'll spend action points for that. The other thing that they can do is they can spend 1 hour in order to initiate a fight if they are in the same space as a bad guy. So if there had been one of these gores here as well, or I guess we were over here, weren't we, with that snow token, then they would initiate a fight. At that point, you're going to direct yourself down to this part of the board here, in which you would set their willpower at 2 and their strength, according to the chart on the bottom with their little picture here, would be at 4. You are tracking your own on your player board as well with your strength. I'm not going to go into the details of the fight, as these are the introductory scenario here does a good job of going over that and teaching you how to do it. But suffice to say, 1 hour up here on this action track is 1 round of fighting in which you are rolling dice with your special ability against the monster and his special ability, hopefully bringing him down to 0 willpower before you reach 0 willpower or run out of actions in the day. Play will continue to go back and forth, like I said, until both of you, or all of you, depending on the number of players, have retired for the day. The first person to retire comes here into the sunrise, or the rooster box on our sunrise here. Players can also extend their day, but as you can see, this is going to cost some willpower. So they will have to spend 2 willpower off of their player board here, 1, 2, in order to take an additional action for the day. At any time, they return here. What? Not there, right here. Once that happens, we're going to go into the next phase of the game. And this next phase of the game is kind of like the cleanup phase, and that's where we're going to look at this sunrise box here and go from left to right through the icons, resolving each of their abilities. So the first thing that happens here is any gores left on the board are going to move along the arrow path. So this guy here would go here. These are resolved in the lowest land to the highest land order. If there is ever one in a space that another gore has, or another monster has to move into, it would skip it and go into the next one, which on this one is into the castle. If any of them ever get into the castle, then they're moved onto this board up here. If you can ever not place one on the board due to, or based on the number of players, because it's all full, so like this, and let's say that this guy here was going to move in, then you lose the game. So this is a losing condition, is filling up this depending on the player count over here. After all of our gores move, then we're going to move all of the war dogs. After that, the giant buffalo, then the war dogs move again, and then the big monsters. If you are a hero and you have ended your turn in a space with a lit fire, you will receive 5 additional willpower, again, tracked on your board here, so that would bring this player up to 11. Our Eternal Frost token is going to move 1 to the left, which will eventually, as we go through the game, shorten this track on the number of available actions for the day. Next up here, we have any lit fires. They will extinguish. And finally, we move the narration pawn up 1 step. If this narration pawn ever reaches one of these red stars, then you are going to go into your scenario book here and read the associated card. So for example, on this one, when we went from A to B, we would pull out this B card, flip it over, and read it. This is how the players are going to get their tasks and objectives, as well as find different adversaries in each scenario. That's a lot of times where these gores and where some of the bad guys are going to spawn, and really just change the general state of the game. There are going to be other things that players will learn as they go, such as you can sometimes visit a merchant over here to gift different items that you can use to upgrade your character or one time. So for example, you can get the wineskin, which is going to increase your movement, or you can get this telescope here, which is going to help you scout out some of these snowy areas, or firewood, which then can be used to light fires. So different things like that that players can get either from the merchant or they can find in the snow as well. They can also get items. For example, here's a different helm, which is going to help her, or him, I guess is the male character here, is going to help him in the fighting, or get a falcon here, which helps to be able to send some of these tokens back and forth between players. So lots of different options as well to kind of customize the character through the different merchants or through different, again, events that are going to happen in the story. So that's going to be, like I said, very general overview from Legends of Andor. Let's hop back up top, talk about some of the differences that this version brings here and this new era that we're getting into, and overall find out our thoughts. All right, so like I said, that was a very big overview of how to play, trying to avoid some of the spoilers of the story and stuff. That being said, once you've played it once, you have the story of that scenario.
That's true.
And it becomes more about the puzzle at that point. And I just want to start off with that point really strong. I like that. I think that they do a good job of matching that immersive story that you get into, the surprises, as you see those tokens and your narration advances, you don't know what's coming. And that's exciting the first time you play the scenario. The second time, you don't quite remember all of it, but you're starting to get more into the puzzle. I think that's a really good way to balance a difficult co-op. Because if you're playing a difficult co-op over and over and over again, and you're like, I'm just always going to lose. No, this is a game that you can get better at as you learn the story, as the events unfold, as you see, wow, that tactic didn't work. Let's rethink this and puzzle it a different way.
Right.
You get more efficient at playing, and I think that it balances that really well here. And that's something they did in the older games as well, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting, like you said, there's that balance of the first time you discover something's very enjoyable just for the story. Upon repeat plays of that same scenario, that kind of goes away, and you just have to get efficient. You know, this is one of those games that it has a double-edged sword of a rule in which every time you take out a baddie, the clock advances. And so you cannot, and many people are tempted to do this the first time they play, you cannot just go, oh, look, monsters. I'm going to go on a killing frenzy. You know what I mean?
Right.
No, the game is going to be over very quickly if you do that. You need to treat it like a puzzle, and it really is that. And it's one of those things that I think a lot of people would be turned off of the game once they try it and realize it's really not a hack and slash actiony kind of game. It's a Euro game dressed in those clothings, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
In that garb of fantasy, monsters, mystical words that sound vaguely fantasy-esque. with a puzzle underneath, a very much an efficiency sort of engine.
I think that's a unique blend of those two that keep it from feeling like Groundhog Day. Things aren't necessarily changing as you play, but it doesn't just feel like rinse and repeat. I've played this scenario before, so I really like that. Like I said, I was new to this and a little bit intimidated. Where to start in Andor? I have no idea. I was really surprised getting into this with the tutorial system. I thought that was really good. It is so quick to get into. You have one page here of setup. You know, it shows you the components and then one page of setup and then it says, pull this first narration card. And it does a really good balance of giving you a little bit of narration and here's the mechanism behind it. You know, here's a little more story, another mechanism behind it. So the cards that you're going to be familiar with and play through for your story also act as your how to teach.
Right.
And your player aid. It's very smooth. It's very quick to the table to you grow into the game.
Yeah, they do a good job of that. They did it in the first game as well, but I think they have... And I also might have a very early printing of the first game that they might have iterated upon. But this feels smoother and cleaner than that first one. They really get, from bang to bullet, it's very fast and very smooth. I do wish that those cards that you are meant to continue referencing, like the... What are the icons in the fog? What do they mean? What do they do? And what do the things that you can trade for mean and do? The falcon, the whatever, right? The shield, what have you. I wish that those cards, though they are there and they show you everything, were bordered in red. They said player aid at the top, something. I want those to be like, I need this card out while I'm learning this game. As it is right now, you kind of have to go through the first story and go like, okay, where was it? Where was it? Oh, okay, that one there.
Yeah.
You know, so that's one visual cue they kind of missed, in my opinion. But as far as learning this game quickly, getting up to speed quickly, this is a great system.
Yeah, and I really like that it is the different cards you guys can kind of tag team that. You know, I think when I'm playing, I put all the ones that I come across for player aids on my left and all my story and tasks on my right. You know, so you kind of get your own system down.
Sure.
But I had the same thought. I wish the player aids had, like I said, a different border. And I wish the tasks specifically were bolded or in a colored box or something like that, just for that quicker visual representation. Especially the player aids, because you're going to use them not just in that tutorial system. I know I have needed them consistently. I haven't played as much as you. And I did have to go back to the first one and find them. So that was kind of a little dock for me as well. But do you have anything else you wanted to cover kind of about returning to the land here before we go to final thoughts?
Well, it's interesting some of the changes they made here. First of all, the setting, this sort of eternal frost idea, comes bundled with a few new concepts. I like one of the two sides of the map has the frozen lake, and it's interesting. It's in the middle of the board. Every time you walk into it, you can't keep walking through it. And then you get a token off of it, and that spot you cannot traverse again. Really clever, really interesting sort of traversal of the board.
And cool thematic, right? Like
it's very neat.
Through the ice so it doesn't break.
I like that.
I like it.
They got rid of the events deck of cards. It's no longer a step in this game, which is interesting. I don't know how I feel about it. I think it might make the game less swingy.
Okay.
Because it's like bad things or good things were in that deck, and you would, got what you got. But I do miss the flavor of that. I do miss this idea of, like, at the beginning of each day, drawing a card, and the king has declared a feast, and we all get something, whatever. Or something bad happened. So I do miss the thematic sort of little splash of that. The game is also stinking hard, and that's these games, again, they are puzzles. They are sometimes very finely tuned, but if they are too finely tuned, you have a couple of bad rolls, and now that balance is off based on that luck. You know what I mean? I still wish that they had more ways to tune the difficulty of these stories and these puzzles and these challenges. I know that sometimes they have the whole, like, pick this card or pick this card. You go A, B, and then C. It's like C1, C2. And you can kind of pick which way you want to take it. I wish it was more granular than that. I wish there were more adjustments than that. But yeah, it's sort of a nice return to form, return to the world, with many things stripped away, many things kind of simplified, but utilizing this Eternal Frost setting very well.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just jump into my final thoughts here.
Okay,
Then I really enjoyed this. Like I said, being intimidated, this definitely eased that off.
Yeah.
I like that balance of the Euro mechanisms, but feeling like this is a story game, like I'm immersing myself in this world. I love that development, and I haven't found it tedious to go back to it. I've actually found it very intriguing, and I'm thinking about the game afterward. Well, I wonder actually, had I had that helm and that roll would have counted, but is it worth getting the helm because that would have been an extra hour or two that I had to play? I don't know, let's try it. I'm finding myself still thinking about this efficiency afterward and can't wait to get back. Right. So discovering the story is like, just lay it all out there. It's like having that discussion where someone's like, just lay it all out there, tell me what you think, and then let's piece it together and figure out how this works. I absolutely love it. So I'm going to come in at an 8 on this. I really enjoy it. There's a couple, like we mentioned, graphical issues that I wish they would do differently, making it the player aids look differently, the task. Those are overlooked, though, because I do still think it's all there. I really look forward to keep going back to this. And we didn't even talk about the combat. I really enjoy the combat. Oh, I could just keep going.
The combat in this game is very good.
Fun.
Yeah.
It's so clean and so easy.
Yes.
But it also has that push your luck. I should have won that one. Oh, I only have 2 hours left. Do I think I can do it in 2? No, it's not worth it. All right, fine. I'm going to go over here and get this instead. I'm going to swing gear. Or no, I really think I can do it. I can do it. Or you take out the big one and just 2 rolls. It's so fun. It just brings that a little bit, just enough of that Ameritrash kind of like dice chucker in it to liven the gameplay.
Right.
So I really enjoy it. It's going to be an 8 for me.
I'm going to come in just slightly under that at a 7.5. I really enjoy the game. This is like watching the 4th movie in a series of films for me, and I'm still liking them. But by the 4th, I'm expecting some things to now have been sort of figured out and been made the norm.
Okay.
Things like the player aids being tagged player aid and being bright and bold and obvious. Things like the difficulty modulation being available to me. You know what I mean? And just sort of like shaking up the system a little more. There's a few things they did. One I really like is the trading idea, where you have these places where you don't go and buy things, you go and trade things. You can give them one thing and you take any other thing out of there. That's cool. I like that, and I do like I said, the ice and all of that. But I think they could have pushed it even further. I think it could have been a more modern, more streamlined system to get people into Legends of Andor now that have never played it at all. And you got into it, but you're a gamer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it could have been an even better bridge to this fantasy world / puzzle experience.
Yes, I definitely think it's a welcoming game to gamers. It is not a welcoming game to Andor. Yeah.
But I like it. Again, my 7.5 is merely because, again, there is a lot of Legends of Andor content out there, which I very much enjoy. By now, I'm like, man, I wish they were doing this. By now, I wish they were, fixing A or B or what have you. So I had a good time with it. It's fun to return.
That's cool. Awesome. All right, well, that's it from us. That is going to be a CELA recommendation from both of us for Legends of Andor, Eternal Frost. All right, what are your thoughts? Let us know down below. And thanks for joining us here at the Dice Tower. I'm Camilla.
I'm Zee.
Go check out Andor.